San Francisco, 1849. To the outside world, this was the promised land. Newspapers in New York and London sold a fantasy, a place where you could pull a fortune out of the riverbed with your bare hands. They called it the Golden Gate, a city of instant millionaires. But if you actually stepped off the boat, you didn't find a city of gold. You found a city of canvas, ash, and liquid mud. You found a place where hundreds of ships sat rotting in the harbor because their crews had deserted. Where the streets were a swamp deep enough to drown a horse, and where a single egg cost the equivalent of $25. This wasn't just a boomtown, it was the most chaotic, dangerous, and expensive place on Earth. History books usually show us this world in static black and white sketches. But in this video, we are using advanced AI reconstruction to bring the color, the texture, and the chaos of the gold rush back to life. We are going to walk the streets exactly as they were. Before we step into the mud, I want to know where you are watching from. So comment your city and country below. It is amazing to see how far these stories reach. Now, watch your step. To understand how this city survived, we have to start where everyone arrived, the harbor. This lithograph by Henry Ferks captures San Francisco in 1849, a moment when a quiet Mexican outpost exploded into a global city. While the sketch gives us the layout, it is only when we step inside the scene that we understand the chaos of the gold rush. Notice the sheer density of the harbor. You are looking at the famous Forest of Masts. In 1849, this wasn't just a busy port, it was a parking lot for abandoned vessels. Hundreds of ships sat rotting in the water, their captains and crews having deserted them the moment they dropped anchor to run for the gold fields. To the right, a column of dark smoke rises from the water. Fire was the constant enemy of early San Francisco, with ships packed gunwale to gunwale and the city built of canvas and dry wood. A single spark could, and often did, turn the entire horizon into an inferno. In the foreground, observe the frantic mixture of architecture. White canvas tents sit right next to newly framed wooden houses. This was a city being built in real time. There was no city planning here, just a desperate scramble for shelter on the edge of the known world. Walk just a few blocks inland, and you arrive here, Portsmouth Square. If the harbor was the city's warehouse, this was its beating heart and its vice. In this reconstruction, look at the ground first. You are standing ankle deep in the infamous San Francisco mud. This wasn't a paved plaza, it was a churning swamp of commerce. But look up, and you see the contradiction. Dominating the filth are these white, columned palaces, like the United States, and the Parker House. These were the gambling hells. Inside, the mud disappeared, replaced by crystal chandeliers, red velvet, and orchestras playing Mozart. It was a psychological trap designed to separate lonely men from their gold. Outside, the business was more desperate. Notice the wagons on the left and the crowds huddled in tight circles. This square was the city's open air stock exchange. With no offices, men stood here in the dirt, trading land deeds, buying cargo, and hiring laborers, all while the city literally rose around them. But the strangest sight in San Francisco wasn't in the plaza. It was down on Clay Street. Look closely at the building in the center. That isn't a foundation, it is the hull of a ship, the Niantic. In most cities, a ship on land is a disaster. In San Francisco, it was real estate. See where the door is. They simply cut a hole through the oak hull of the abandoned whaling ship. Because lumber was so expensive and land was so scarce, entrepreneurs dragged these rotting vessels onto the mud flats and built hotels right on top of the decks. Notice the masts still rising behind the roof. Guests at the Niantic Hotel slept in rooms built on the quarterdeck, paying exorbitant rates to live in a ship that would never sail again. But for every man gambling in the Portsmouth Square hotels, 1,000 more lived here, in places like Happy Valley. Look at this sprawling chaos. In 1849, San Francisco's population exploded from 825,000 in a single year. There was simply no housing. Visual anchor, you see the result. A sea of canvas tents and raw wooden shacks patched together, with whatever lumber could be scavenged from the ships below. Notice how there are no real streets, just winding dirt paths. These were the slums of the gold rush. They were freezing in the winter, suffocating in the summer, and a breeding ground for cholera and dysentery. The people you see walking here aren't paupers. Many had pockets full of gold dust. But in a city where an egg cost the equivalent of 25 today, even a rich man lived in squalor, waiting for his luck to turn or his ship to come in. If the fires didn't get you, the winter did. You are looking at Montgomery Street, the city's main artery, after a week of rain. In 1849, there was no pavement. The constant traffic of heavy wagons and thousands of boots turned the clay soil into a liquid quagmire 3 feet deep. See these wooden planks? They were the only sidewalks. Step off them, and you would sink to your knees in a mixture of mud, manure, and trash. Notice how deep the wagon wheels are buried. There are actual historical accounts of mules and horses drowning in the streets of San Francisco during this winter. It was a city where simple movement was a life or death struggle.